Hey guys, it's Jake with Our Value Homes, and I'm here at our drywaller's place. He's pouring his own ICF walls and called me in to help him on pour day. He also rented our bracing. So this is not our installation, but I just wanted to point out a few things that are good practice and maybe a couple of concerns. So take a look at how tall this wall is. Yeah, by the way, down there, that's what happens when you run into it with a SkyTrack. The foam's a little damaged, but pretty rebuildable. Concrete stays intact. Anyways, we got a pretty tall wall here. Fortunately, you're not trying to pour that all at once, just doing about the top 14 foot there, but that's so far off the ground, really cannot afford to have any problems at all. And so what we've done is we've taken a piece of plywood, and at the short end of the corner, we screw that plywood in and to the block next to it, and that just keeps things from bulging out at all. Keeps that corner nice and straight. Probably more than one way to skin that cat, but that's what we found works pretty well. Another area, they probably went a little overkill on this, but overkill is always good on an ICF. When you have a window that's close to a corner like this one is, say 5 feet or less, you're going to get some bulging when you fill that space between them. The concrete's going to push outward in both directions toward the window and then toward the corner. And so by taking a 2x4 from the corner all the way across the window there, they are going to keep that solid and transfer the load onto the other side of the window so that there's no movement. More in the vein of we don't really know what's going on here. More wood is not necessarily better, but take a look up there where they're bracing a stack seam and did some plywood, did some 2x4 on top of the plywood. Not really sure what the thought is there, but that's just kind of a funny thing people will often go and do. Not bad, just maybe a waste of time. So again, here in this corner, you'll see some short plywood was put in. They probably missed one piece down below that, but you'll notice a 2x4 run along the top of the wall there. We call that our whaler board. That helps keeps things a little straight, helps hold the corners together. So that's definitely a best practice. A whaler board, we use a 3-inch screw, screwed in every other tie at least, plus wherever there's a strong back. Now we're getting inside where we've got about some 22-foot tall walls. People often want to see how that's braced. So we're using draft bracing here. Let me just flip this and get a better view. Draft bracing here, this bottom portion is poured already. There's the coupler that couples the two together, and we can tighten or loosen those bolts to put a little different kink in it or straighten it. Then you've got turnbuckle and extension on that turnbuckle that draft also makes to get us up there high enough. Got our guardrail brackets in. Again, funny thing going on with the plank there, which probably give us what we call an 1.5-inch heart attack when we walk across it. 1.5-inch heart attack when you're walking along, you're not watching your feet, you're watching the pour, and all of a sudden you drop down that 1.5 inches, and boy oh boy, can that give you a heart attack. You think you're gonna die. Very funny to watch other people have an 1.5-inch heart attack. Not so fun to do it yourself. Well, I said that corner looked like overkill. Maybe it would have been if these boards had been screwed together. I don't know what somebody had in mind here, but those boards aren't screwed together. Ain't nothing gonna hold that. Furthermore, there's no screws into the ties from these boards. So we fixed worse problems. Well, we got a problem to fix. Well, the end of the saga, after some investigating and thinking about what exactly went wrong, truck number 4 came super wet. It was at least a 7 slump, and maybe you know, but an ICF wall is best around a 5 slump, maybe 5.5 on the higher end. So the concrete was way too wet. By the time we even realized it, so much had flowed over to that corner and filled it that it blew out. So that's one thing. The concrete came way too wet. The next, and that was truck 4. The first 3 were fantastic. So we sent them back. The next thing about that was the bracing that I said was probably overkill. A little overkill is good. Well, it wasn't all screwed in. You got to screw it into both sides of that corner, the short end and then the block next to it. That did not happen. And then the 2x4s around the corner could have been screwed together. They wouldn't have probably needed to if that concrete weren't so wet and if the 2x4s had been screwed into the ICF properly, but it was pretty haphazard. Either way, paying attention to those details does matter. It was not all or even primarily the fault of the guy doing the bracing. He maybe could have done a better job, but most of it did come down to that concrete just being so wet.